The massive holographic display in Earth's United Defense Command Center cast an eerie blue glow across Admiral James Walker's weathered face. His eyes narrowed as he studied the data streams flowing across the screen. 20 years of military service had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every fiber of his being screamed that something was terribly wrong. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice cutting through the tense silence of the command center. The AI system replayed the intercepted transmission from the Galactic Council's secure channels. As the data scrolled past, the pattern became clearer: deliberate economic sabotage, carefully hidden behind layers of bureaucratic paperwork. The Galactic Council, that prestigious group of advanced alien civilizations that had welcomed humanity into their ranks 50 years ago, had been systematically undermining Earth's development. Their tactics were subtle: delayed shipments, artificially inflated prices, rejected trade permits, and countless other small obstacles that added up to a massive campaign of suppression. "Those smug bastards," muttered Captain Mike Roberts, Walker's most trusted advisor. "They've been playing us for fools all this time." Walker straightened his uniform and turned to face the gathered military leadership. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing is not a coincidence. Our analysis team has compiled evidence spanning the last 30 years. The Council has been deliberately keeping humanity confined to our solar system through economic warfare." The room erupted in angry murmurs. General Emma Thompson, head of Earth's Intelligence Division, stepped forward. "We've suspected something like this for years, but they've always been careful to cover their tracks. This is the first concrete evidence we found." The evidence was damning. Council ships had been using advanced jamming technology to disrupt Earth's colonial expansion efforts. Trade routes that should have been profitable were mysteriously running at a loss. Earth's applications for advanced technology licenses were being lost in bureaucratic loops. Walker activated another holographic display, showing a map of human space versus other Council races' territories. "Look at this. Every other species that joined the Council in the last century has at least 5 colonial systems. We've barely managed to establish one permanent colony beyond Mars, despite having better technology than most of them did at our stage." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had always wondered why their expansion into space had been so difficult, despite their rapid technological advancement. Now they knew. They had been deliberately held back by the very organization that claimed to welcome them. "What's our next move?" asked General Thompson, her voice tight with controlled anger. Walker pressed a button, and a new image appeared, a detailed scan of Council military movements. "They're getting sloppy. They think we're too weak to notice, too primitive to understand their methods. But we've been watching, learning, and most importantly, preparing." He walked around the holographic display, his reflection multiplied in the various screens around the room. "For the past 5 years, we've been developing technologies they don't know about. Our quantum research team has made breakthroughs they can't imagine. We've built ships they can't detect, weapons they can't counter. And they have no idea," Captain Roberts added with a grim smile. "Correct," Walker nodded. "Their arrogance is their weakness. They see us as primitive upstarts, barely worth their attention. That's going to be their downfall." The Admiral pulled up one final display, a formal complaint filed with the Galactic Council regarding the evidence they'd discovered. "We're going to play this by the book, one last time. We'll file our complaint, present our evidence, and demand justice." "They'll dismiss it," General Thompson said flatly. "They always do." Walker's smile was cold. "Oh, I'm counting on it. When they dismiss this complaint, they'll prove to every human colony and settlement that diplomacy has failed. That will give us the political support we need for what comes next." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. Everyone present knew that humanity had been preparing for this possibility. Hidden shipyards, secret weapons programs, and carefully concealed military exercises, all waiting for the moment when diplomacy finally failed. "Send the complaint," Walker ordered. And may God help the Council when they make their final mistake. As the transmission was sent, no one in the room doubted what would happen next. The Galactic Council would dismiss their concerns, just as they had dozens of times before. But this time would be different. This time, humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly how dangerous they could be. Commander Lisa Stone stood in the massive underground facility, watching as robotic arms assembled another stealth cruiser. The cavern, hidden beneath the surface of Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, housed humanity's secret fleet. Every ship built here incorporated technology that the Galactic Council didn't believe humans could develop for at least another century. "Status report," she called out, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "Hull assembly at 92%, Commander," replied Tom Baker, her chief engineer. He looked up from his tablet, pride evident in his eyes. "The quantum stealth system is performing even better than expected. Our latest tests show zero detection on all known Council scanning frequencies." The construction facility was a marvel of human ingenuity. After the Council had restricted Earth's official shipyards, humanity had simply gone underground. Literally. Europa's thick ice shell provided perfect cover from prying eyes, and its subsurface ocean offered unlimited resources for construction. "The AI combat systems?" Stone asked, walking along the gantry that overlooked the construction bay. "Better than anything the Council has," Baker grinned. "We've been feeding it combat data from every known alien species. It can predict and counter their tactics faster than their own ships can execute them." Stone nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The Council's attempts to suppress human development had backfired spectacularly. Instead of keeping humanity weak, it had forced them to become more innovative, more resourceful, and far more dangerous than they might have been otherwise. "Commander," a young technician ran up, tablet in hand. "We just received word from Earth. The Council rejected our complaint, just as expected." Stone's expression hardened. "Right on schedule. Send the alert to all facilities. Initiate Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, similar scenes were playing out in hidden bases. On Mars, massive underground hangars opened to reveal squadrons of fighters equipped with technology that shouldn't exist. In the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into weapon production facilities. Even Venus's harsh atmosphere concealed floating factories, churning out advanced weaponry. In her private office, Stone reviewed the latest reports. The Council's spies were still focused on Earth's official military installations, completely unaware of the true scale of human preparation. Their reports to the Council would show exactly what humanity wanted them to see: a frustrated, technologically limited species struggling to expand beyond their solar system. "If they only knew," she muttered, looking at the real numbers. 500 stealth cruisers, 3,000 fighters, and dozens of capital ships, all hidden from the Council's eyes. Each vessel was equipped with quantum stealth systems, advanced AI combat controls, and weapons that the Council thought were theoretically impossible. A message flashed across her screen. Admiral Walker requesting a secure connection. She accepted, and his hologram appeared in her office. "Commander Stone, how are we looking?" "Ready on all fronts, Admiral. The fleet is at 98% completion, and our crews have completed their training cycles. We can launch within 48 hours of your command." Walker nodded approvingly. The Council's response was exactly what we expected. Their High Commander actually laughed while dismissing our evidence, called us primitive paranoids. "Their arrogance is astronomical," Stone replied. "They still think we're using basic fusion drives and traditional stealth systems. They haven't detected a single quantum signature from our ships." "Keep it that way," Walker ordered. "We need them overconfident. The more they underestimate us, the more complete their shock will be when we strike." Stone pulled up a tactical display showing the positions of known Council forces. Their patrol patterns haven't changed in months. They're not even trying to hide their movements anymore. "Perfect." Walker smiled grimly. "Continue final preparations. When we move, We need to hit them so hard they won't know what happened until it's too late." As the hologram faded, Stone turned back to the window overlooking the construction bay. Below, the latest stealth cruiser was receiving its final touches. Its dark hull seemed to absorb light, making it hard to focus on directly, a side effect of the quantum stealth technology. The Council had tried to keep humanity weak by restricting their access to advanced technology. Instead, they had forced humans to develop their own solutions that would soon shock the galaxy. As she watched her crew's work, Stone allowed herself a moment of pride. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that needed to be controlled. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Council trade station hung in space like a glittering jewel, its crystalline structures reflecting starlight. It was the busiest trading hub in the sector, processing thousands of ships daily. The alien station commander watched the traffic flow with satisfaction, completely unaware that everything was about to change. At precisely 300 Earth Standard Time, Admiral Walker's voice echoed through the encrypted channels of Earth's hidden fleet. "All ships, execute Operation Thunderstrike. Weapons free, stealth systems active." Like ghosts materializing from nothing, 500 human warships dropped their quantum stealth fields within striking distance of key Council installations across 20 star systems. The Council's mighty defense networks didn't even flicker. Their sensors were blind to the human fleet's presence until it was far too late. At the primary trade hub, Commander Stone's flagship, the ESS Vengeance, led the assault. "Target their communication arrays and defense platforms," she ordered. "Minimal casualties, maximum damage. Show them exactly what they've been underestimating." The human ships moved with devastating precision. Advanced AI systems coordinated their attacks, striking with a level of synchronization that the Council had never seen before. Plasma beams sliced through defense platforms, while electromagnetic pulses disabled ship after ship without destroying them. On the Council station, panic erupted as systems began failing. "Unknown vessels," screamed a sensor operator. "They're everywhere. Our weapons can't lock onto them." The station commander stared in disbelief as human ships seemed to flicker in and out of existence, appearing just long enough to fire before vanishing again. Their quantum stealth technology made them nearly impossible to track, while their AI-driven combat systems predicted and countered every defensive move before it could be executed. "This is Commander Lisa Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet," her message broadcast across all frequencies. "Your station is now under our control. Power down your remaining weapons, or we will be forced to disable them permanently." In other systems, the scene repeated itself. Council military vessels found themselves outmaneuvered and disabled by ships they couldn't properly detect. Trade routes were severed, defense stations were neutralized, and the Council's carefully maintained power structure began to crumble. Admiral Walker watched from his command ship as reports flooded in. "Status update," he demanded. 18 of 20 primary targets neutralized, his tactical officer reported. "Minimal casualties on both sides. Council forces are in disarray. They can't coordinate their responses because we control their communication networks." Walker nodded grimly. The plan was working perfectly. Humanity had learned from centuries of warfare that controlling information was often more important than controlling territory. By striking the Council's communication and trade infrastructure first, they had effectively paralyzed their ability to mount an organized response. On the Council homeworld, the High Command was in chaos. "How is this possible?" roared the Supreme Commander. "These primitives shouldn't have this technology." They were contained. His aide trembled as another report came in. "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from all major trade hubs. The humans, they're everywhere. Our ships can't get a weapons lock on them, and their attacks are precisely coordinated. It's like they're predicting our every move." Back in Earth space, Commander Stone watched as Council ships tried to rally. Their attempts at formation were predictable, exactly as their combat databases had shown. The human AI systems had analyzed centuries of Council military tactics, learning their patterns and developing countermeasures for each one. "They're launching their counterattack," her tactical officer reported. 3 carrier groups, moving exactly as predicted. Stone allowed herself a small smile. "Execute pattern Delta. Let's show them what real combat coordination looks like." The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship knowing its exact role. Council vessels found themselves caught in carefully planned crossfires, their shields failing under attacks from weapons they didn't know existed. Within minutes, the counterattack had been completely neutralized, with every Council ship disabled but not destroyed. "Send the message," Walker ordered from his command ship. "Let's make sure they understand exactly what's happening." Across Council space, displays lit up with the same transmission. "For decades, you dismissed us as primitives. You tried to contain us, suppress us, and control us. This is humanity's response. We are not your subjects. We are not your inferiors, and we are no longer playing by your rules." The first phase of humanity's revenge was complete. The Council's mighty trading empire had been brought to its knees in less than an hour, and the galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humans was a deadly mistake. The Grand Council chamber, with its towering crystal spires and floating platforms, had never seen such chaos. The Supreme Commander of the Council forces stood before the assembled representatives, his scales turning pale with rage and embarrassment. "These humans are nothing but upstart primitives," he declared, pounding his fist on the podium. "Their lucky attacks on our trade routes are merely a temporary inconvenience. I have dispatched our disciplinary fleet to their system. Within days, Earth will learn the price of defiance." The disciplinary fleet, pride of the Council's military might, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 1,000 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, arranged themselves in the Council's traditional attack formation. Fleet Admiral Dox, a veteran of 100 campaigns against rebellious species, stood confidently on his bridge. "Send the ultimatum," he ordered. "Demand Earth's immediate surrender, or we will reduce their civilization to ash." The message was sent. The response came not in words, but in action. As the disciplinary fleet approached Earth orbit, their sensors detected nothing unusual. No defensive fleet, no orbital weapons platforms, exactly what they expected from a primitive species. Admiral Dox allowed himself a satisfied smile. That smile vanished as his ship's systems suddenly went dark. Across the massive fleet, alarms blared as ships lost power. Hidden defense satellites, completely invisible to Council sensors, had activated in perfect synchronization. Quantum disruption fields rippled through space, turning the Council's advanced technology against itself. "What's happening?" Dox demanded as his bridge crew frantically worked to restore power. "Unknown energy signature," his science officer shouted. "It's like nothing we've ever seen. Our shields are useless against it." In Earth's primary defense command center, Admiral Walker watched with grim satisfaction as the Council fleet drifted helplessly in space. "Commence Phase 2, he ordered. The Earth's atmosphere began to glow as hundreds of defense platforms revealed themselves, emerging from their quantum stealth fields. Each platform housed weapons that the Council had deemed theoretically impossible: gravity lances, temporal disruptors, and plasma cascade generators. "This is Admiral James Walker of Earth Defense Command." His message boomed across every Council frequency. "Your fleet is now powerless in our space. Surrender, and we will spare your lives. Resist, and we will demonstrate exactly how primitive our weapons are." On his crippled flagship, Admiral Dox watched in horror as human ships materialized around his fleet. They moved with impossible precision, their formations unlike anything he had seen in centuries of warfare. The humans weren't using the standard tactical patterns that every civilized race followed. They were doing something entirely new. "Sir," his tactical officer's voice shook, "we're detecting energy readings from Earth that are off the scale. Their weapons, they're beyond anything in our database." Before Dox could respond, a blast of energy from Earth split the space between his ships. It wasn't meant to destroy. It was a demonstration. The energy beam manipulated gravity itself, briefly turning space into a pretzel before dissipating. In the council chamber, the Supreme Commander's speech was interrupted as holographic displays showed the disciplinary fleet's predicament. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated just how badly the Council had underestimated them. "Impossible," the Supreme Commander whispered. "They were contained. We monitored their development. They shouldn't have this technology for centuries." Commander Stone's voice cut through the Council's communications. "You monitored what we wanted you to monitor. You saw what we wanted you to see. While you were watching our official research stations, our real work was happening elsewhere. Your arrogance made you blind." The disciplinary fleet, pride of the Council, hung powerless in Earth's orbit. Their mighty weapons were useless, their advanced shields nothing more than decorative light shows against human technology. In a matter of hours, the Council's military superiority, unchallenged for millennia, had been exposed as an illusion. "Your fleet is at our mercy." Walker's voice was cold. "Consider this a lesson in humility. Earth is not some primitive backwater for you to suppress. We are humanity, and we will no longer bow to your authority." In the council chamber, the terrible truth began to sink in. They hadn't been containing a primitive species. They had been provoking one of the most dangerous races the galaxy had ever seen. And now they would face the consequences. Commander Stone stood at the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, watching the holographic display that showed the Council's mighty disciplinary fleet drifting helplessly in Earth's orbit. But this was just the beginning. She nodded to her weapons officer. "Release the swarms." From hidden bays across Earth's defense platforms, millions of tiny points of light emerged. Each one was smaller than a grain of sand. A nanite drone, powered by quantum computing cores and guided by advanced AI. The Council had always dismissed nanite technology as too unstable, too difficult to control. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Swarms are active," reported the weapons officer. "All units functioning at optimal levels. Council ships are completely unaware of the infiltration." The nanites slipped through the powered-down shields of the Council vessels like ghosts through walls. Their mission wasn't to destroy, it was to take control. Billions of microscopic machines invaded the Council's supposedly impenetrable technology, rewriting systems and assuming control from within. "Sir," the young technician's voice was filled with excitement. "The nanites have achieved full integration with Council systems. We have complete access to their network." Stone allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "Begin Phase 2 of the nanite operation. Send the signal to all other Earth forces." Across Council space, hidden human agents activated similar swarms. The microscopic machines had been quietly smuggled into Council installations for months, disguised as routine dust particles. Now, they awakened all at once. In the Council's primary military shipyard, alien engineers watched in horror as their most advanced warships began powering down, their systems taken over by an enemy they couldn't even see. On heavily fortified worlds, defense grids collapsed as nanites rewrote their core programming. "What is this sorcery?" demanded the Council's Supreme Commander, watching as reports of system failures flooded in from across their territory. "How are they doing this?" The answer came in the form of a system-wide broadcast from Admiral Walker. "While you were watching our official technology development, monitoring our approved research stations, we were developing something you never thought possible: true mastery over the microscopic world. On countless Council worlds, oppressed species who had suffered under their rule watched in amazement as their overlords' mighty technology simply stopped working. The nanites spread like a technological plague, but one with perfect precision and control. They disabled weapons but left life support intact. They shut down military systems while preserving civilian infrastructure." Commander Stone's voice joined the broadcast. "Your arrogance was your weakness. You were so convinced of your technological superiority that you never considered we might develop along different paths. You thought you understood the limits of science. We proved those limits were only in your minds. In hidden bases across Council space, other suppressed species who had secretly allied with Earth began their own uprisings. They had been waiting for this moment, armed with human technology that the Council never knew existed. The Nanites have achieved complete coverage of all primary Council military installations, reported Stone's tactical officer. Their entire defense network is under our control. The Council's mighty empire, built on technological superiority and military might, crumbled in a matter of hours, not through violence or destruction, but through the invisible conquest of their own systems by microscopic machines they couldn't detect or fight. In the Council chamber, panic turned to chaos as the Nanites reached their central systems. The floating platforms that held the representatives slowly descended to the ground as power failed. The magnificent holographic displays flickered and died. You tried to keep humanity confined and weak. Walker's voice echoed through the chamber. Instead, you forced us to become more innovative, more resourceful, and far more dangerous than you could imagine. The Nanites now controlling your technology are just the beginning of what we can do. Stone watched as the Council's mighty disciplinary fleet hung helpless in Earth's orbit, completely under human control. The Nanites had transformed their most powerful weapons into useless metal, their advanced shields into mere decorative lights. "Send the final message," she ordered. Across Council space, every working display showed the same words. "Your reign is over. The galaxy will no longer bow to your authority. Welcome to humanity's new order." The hidden blade had struck, and the Council's age of dominance had ended not with a bang, but with the silent victory of billions of microscopic machines. The Council chamber, once a symbol of absolute power, had become a scene of chaos and recrimination. Representatives of the once mighty Council races turned on each other like trapped animals, their voices echoing off the ancient crystal walls. "You assured us the humans were contained," shouted the mercantile representative, his ceremonial robes disheveled. "Your military guaranteed their technology was primitive." The Supreme Commander, his scales now a sickly gray, could only watch as centuries of careful control unraveled before his eyes. On the massive screens that still functioned, reports streamed in from across Council space. Their mighty empire was falling apart system by system. The latest reports confirmed total loss of military control in 12 major systems, a junior aide announced, his voice trembling. "Our colonies are declaring independence, and several member races are requesting direct alliance with Earth." Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the political chaos unfold. His tactical display showed the status of former Council worlds: green for those accepting Earth's new order, yellow for those still undecided, and red for the few still clinging to Council authority. The screen was mostly green. "Send in the evidence package," he ordered. "Let's show everyone exactly what they've been living under." Across thousands of worlds, information began to flow freely for the first time in centuries. Humanity's intelligence services had spent years gathering evidence of the Council's corruption. Now, they released everything. Proof of economic manipulation, records of suppressed technological advances, and documents showing deliberate keeping of entire species in artificial poverty. Commander Stone's voice carried across the emergency channels. "To all Council worlds and species, the information you're receiving has been verified and authenticated. Your leaders have been lying to you for generations. The era of suppression is over." In the Council chamber, the political representatives watched in horror as their secrets were exposed. Centuries of careful manipulation and control dissolved in hours as their subject species learned the truth. "My people were ready for advanced medical technology 3 centuries ago." A representative from a younger race stood up, rage evident in his voice. "You deliberately withheld it to keep us dependent." Similar scenes played out across Council space. Species that had been told they were too primitive for advanced technology discovered they had been systematically held back. Worlds that had struggled with resource shortages learned their problems had been artificially created to maintain control. On Earth's command ships, human leaders watched as their plan's final phase unfolded. They had known that military victory alone wouldn't be enough. The Council's power was built on political control and carefully maintained lies. By exposing those lies, they were destroying the foundation of Council authority. "Sir," a communications officer called to Walker, "we're receiving requests for protection from 37 former Council worlds. They're afraid of retaliation from the hardcore Council loyalists." Walker nodded. "Accept all requests. Deploy our forces to ensure peaceful transitions. Remember, we're not here to become the new Council. We're here to end the very concept of imposed galactic authority." In the Council chamber, the final blow came as several major member races announced their immediate withdrawal from the Council system. Centuries-old alliances crumbled as species after species rejected the corruption they have discovered. "You don't understand what you're doing," the Supreme Commander shouted desperately. "The galaxy needs order. It needs control." "No," Commander Stone's voice cut through the chamber. "The galaxy needs freedom. It needs truth. Your kind of order is just another word for oppression." The human fleet maintained its position, protecting newly liberated worlds while carefully avoiding any appearance of attempting to establish their own empire. Earth had learned from history. True power came not from control, but from mutual respect and cooperation. As the day ended, the once mighty Council had effectively ceased to exist as a governing body. Its member races were either aligning with Earth or declaring independence. The carefully maintained structure of galactic power had been completely rewritten. In his private quarters, Admiral Walker reviewed the day's events. "Send word to Earth," he instructed his communications officer. "Tell them Phase 6 is complete. The political structure of the Council has collapsed. Now comes the hard part, helping build something better in its place." The galaxy was entering a new era, and humanity had proved itself not just militarily superior, but morally prepared to handle the responsibility that came with such power. 1 month after the Council's collapse, representatives from over 200 worlds gathered in Earth's newly constructed Galactic Assembly. The massive structure, built in orbit around Earth, symbolized humanity's new approach to galactic politics. Transparent walls, open spaces, and meeting rooms where all species could gather as equals. Admiral Walker stood at the main podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. Former Council races sat beside species they had once suppressed, while Earth's representatives deliberately chose seats scattered throughout the chamber rather than claiming a position of prominence. "We gather here not to create a new empire," Walker began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "but to establish something unprecedented, a true galactic partnership of equals." Commander Stone, now serving as Earth's chief diplomatic officer, activated the central holographic display. The image showed the proposed structure of the new Earth Accords, a system of mutual defense, free trade, and technological sharing that would replace the Council's oppressive hierarchy. "Every world maintains its independence," she explained. "Military protection is mutual, not imposed. Technology is shared, not controlled. Trade is free, not manipulated. This is what we fought for, not to rule, but to free." The former Council races watched with a mixture of surprise and respect as humanity voluntarily limited its own power. Earth's forces could have easily established themselves as the new ruling power, yet they chose a different path. "The Nanite networks that helped us win the war," Stone continued, "will now serve as the foundation of a new emergency response system. Any world under threat can call for immediate assistance from all member worlds." Representatives from formerly suppressed species took turns speaking, sharing their experiences and hopes for the future. Many have expected Earth to simply replace the Council as the galaxy's dominant power. Instead, they found humans actively working to prevent any single species from gaining too much control. "We remember our own history," Walker explained to the assembly. "Empires rise and fall. True stability comes from cooperation and mutual respect, not from force or control. The new Earth Accords included revolutionary concepts in galactic governance. Every member world would have access to a shared database of technological achievements. Trade routes would be protected by joint fleets. Scientific research would be conducted openly, ending the Council's practice of technological suppression. "There's something you should know," Stone addressed the gathered representatives. "Earth could have developed these technologies centuries ago. The Council's suppression actually forced us to develop in unique ways, to find paths they never imagined. We don't want that to happen to anyone else." In the following hours, world after world signed the Accords. Former enemies found themselves working together, planning joint ventures that would have been impossible under Council rule. The galaxy was transforming from a hierarchical empire into a cooperative alliance. "The human approach is unexpected," commented a former Council military commander to Walker. "We always thought victory meant control. You show us it can mean partnership instead." Earth's quantum communication network, once a military secret, was now being adapted to serve all member worlds. The Nanite swarms that had disabled Council technology were being reprogrammed to repair and enhance infrastructure across the galaxy. The old Council believed advanced technology had to be controlled, Stone explained to a group of delegates. "We believe it should be shared, understood, and used responsibly by all." As the signing ceremony concluded, Walker looked out at the transformed assembly. Where there had once been rigid hierarchies and forced submission, now there was genuine cooperation. Earth's victory had not just changed the galaxy's power structure, it had changed how species thought about power itself. "Let this day be remembered," he declared, "not as the day Earth conquered the Council, but as the day the galaxy chose a new path. Together, we build something that has never existed before, a true community of worlds." The new Earth Accords were more than just a peace treaty or trade agreement. They represented a fundamental shift in galactic civilization. Humanity had not just defeated the Council, they had replaced its entire philosophy of control and domination with one of cooperation and mutual growth. As the assembly concluded, ships from hundreds of worlds formed an honor guard around Earth's orbital station. Their formation was not the rigid military pattern of the old Council, but a flowing, organic display of unity and respect, a symbol of the new galactic order that humanity had helped create. The galaxy would never be the same.